Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bear Chats. I'm your host, Scott Cordischi. Glad you could join us. Well, this Saturday at Brown Stadium, it's going to be a very special day. The Bears will be playing their final regular season game at home as they host the Columbia Lions, and it will also be Salute to Service Day. And on the field, prior to the start of the game, the Bears will have a very special honorary captain. In fact, he was a former captain of the Brown football team himself back in 2004. United States Navy Lieutenant Commander Will Burroughs is our guest. Will, how are you?
I'm doing great, Scott. Thanks for having me tonight.
Well, it's great to see you again and great to catch up with you. And so excited that you'll be coming back to Brown Stadium, to your old stomping grounds this Saturday.
Yeah, super excited to get back to campus. And even with a little rain, it's not going to stop the fun.
Well, Will, the forecast is good. It's saying the rain ends in the morning and we'll have sunny skies in the afternoon. So let's knock on wood and hope that that's the case. So it is Salute to Service Day. And Will, thank you for your service and all the people that are watching. You are a member of the United States Navy, a lieutenant commander. Tell us how you got into the Navy and how you decided to pursue that as a career path.
Yeah, well, I grew up in a military family. My father retired from the Marine Corps. My grandfather was in the Army. But after Brown, I did Teach for America. I went back to high school, biology in Arizona, ended up at law school, really kind of on a whim. Credit to Professor Albert Dahlberg. He was our faculty advisor at the time. And I came back one day and I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And he wrote out some paths and then I pursued law school, ended up at Notre Dame Law School in South Bend, Indiana. And just kind of thought I wanted to be in the courtroom. The Navy JAG Corps was a really fast pathway to get into the courtroom and litigate. The few good men really is somewhat true when it comes to junior folks getting in the courtroom. So I applied to the Navy JAG Corps as a second-year law school student and got in. Had a job offer before most of my classmates and just never looked back.
So from Brown to teaching to Notre Dame Law School and then Naval Justice School, is that correct?
Correct. Right back in Newport, Rhode Island, where, having spent all that time in Providence, I kind of knew the lay of the land and was able to show my classmates the best parts and maybe some of the worst parts of Rhode Island.
And by the way, you mentioned a few good men. I can't handle the truth, Will, just so you know. Well, you were a captain for this football program back in 2004. In fact, you were co-captains with Angel Gutierrez and with Lawrence Rubida. And ironically enough, the team just held its annual bench press for cancer a couple of weeks ago in the main green. And the benefits, obviously, for years went to the American Cancer Society, now to the Miriam Hospital and their oncology unit there. But you and your teammates started this whole thing for Lawrence when he was battling Ewing sarcoma when he was a member of the team, correct?
Yeah, so Larry and I played on the offensive line. We spent our summers up in Providence lifting weights. He was always a little bit of a better player than most of us. And to see him go through what he went through with such kind of grace under pressure was really inspiring. So we started with bracelets, wristbands, never quit. You kind of see some of the older guys still wear them. And then it molded into the bench press for cancer. And, it's a tough, grief and tragedy is a weird thing, I think, for everyone, but It's great to see the team keep it up, especially to get Coach Frizz letting us know how well the team's dealing with it. And so we really appreciate what they're doing.
You were a two-time All-Ivy offensive lineman for us. You won the NCAA National Sportsmanship Award, which I know was very special to you. And, you blocked for some great players like Nick Hardigan, right? I mean, tell us what your Brown football experience was like and what it meant to you.
Yeah, it was, coming from a small town in Arizona, my recruiting trip was a blizzard. I had Jesse Hawkins, Jermaine Griffin, Darren Carmen host me. I think we ate all the food and Spikes on Thayer Street when it was still there because I was a grown boy. But really being able to block for Nick, Joey Rackley, Brent Grenna, Carson Brennan, all the different running backs we had. I can't forget Max Tortor, right? It was great. And being part of the offensive line, Coach Sheehan, he had his hands full with the personalities we had on that offensive line. And then, the subsequent Ivy League championship after I left. But it was great to be part of that small unit as part of a bigger team. And I'm really excited we just had a weekend wedding this past weekend with a bunch of the guys from my class. And it was really great to see them up in Maine. And, it's kind of a rambling answer, but the team, the camaraderie is something that lives true today. We give each other hard times about some of the shenanigans that were 18-year-olds pulling in the locker room, but it was great.
So, you talk about being a member of the offensive line, and to me, the camaraderie and the closeness maybe is as good with your position as it is with any on the team. And I say that having served 7 years as director of football operations. I mean, O-linemen are just a different breed. You guys are a really tight-knit group, aren't you?
I think you can call us weird and we're not going to get offended. We exist to not really be seen. And when we get seen, we're probably doing something wrong that's costing the team some yards. But we do a lot together. We have to know what the other person is doing, or you can get hurt. That's a dig at Ian Toll. I took an ankle sprain as a senior, and he still, apologizes for it. But we made it through. We had a good season with the Hardigan right behind us.
So you talk about, your Brown football experience. What about your Brown experience? Coming here for 4 years, what did it mean to you, and how did it help you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I really appreciated the open curriculum. I don't think I knew what I was getting into as a freshman when they let me kind of pick my own adventure, but it really made me, I think by the time sophomore spring, I had a strong faculty advisor, not only in at the time, Bob Keneally, and then also Mary Luke McMillan, but just the ability to make some mistakes and not have it be the end of your career in the classroom. I failed a class heading into junior year and got to stay up and retake it. Luckily, I had a strong support network, but I think Brown was a safe place to fail and to grow and to push new boundaries. And that's what when I think back of what Brown did for me, not to steal a slogan from UPS, but I'm comfortable taking risk. And I think now, as a judge advocate who advises commanders on risk, in the United States and outside the United States, my comfort from Brown in a safe environment has been really beneficial to me as I've grown in my career.
So I did not grow up in a military family like you, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate our military servicemen and women. And I say that, I had a father that served in the Air Force during the Cuban Missile Crisis. I have a father-in-law that served in the Army in Vietnam. So, growing up in a military family, you probably appreciated what it was all about. But now being an officer in the United States Navy, do you appreciate it even more so?
I do, and it's probably not for I think the logical reason. I'm inspired every day by the junior sailors that I get to interact with. I had the unique experience of teaching high school, going on a deployment with a bunch of ships in the Pacific Ocean, and having one of my high school seniors be on the same ship where I was the lawyer. That's bizarre. And the things that we ask our young Americans to do day in and day out in service of their country is really awe-inspiring, to kind of take a cheesy quote, but it truly is. And then, in the Brown community, we have, I think right now, 10 or 12 active duty Brown alum that I'm aware of who are still serving today. And that's unique, right? You can tie a lot back to September 11th, 2001. It's a kind of a tight cluster around that group of classes, but it's the people, right? What keeps people in the military, I think, is the people. The mission is great, right? Everyone loves to serve and protect the country, but you like to do it with the people side by side. And that ties back to football and athletics, right? That strong team ties that you got at Brown.
You also mentioned that when you got out of Brown, you got into teaching. And I read a story where you said teaching was a very difficult job, but it seemed like it was very rewarding at the same time. Did you enjoy that time teaching?
Oh, yeah, no, it was difficult understatement. I didn't realize your first year of teaching, every day's a new day. Every day's a new lesson plan. Every day I had freshmen through seniors in biology. So it was a subject that most of them didn't like. It was a subject that some of them had to retake. And I was right next to the football field. So it was like a high activity Arizona classroom space, and, got to break up a couple fights, but it was challenging because you're dealing with kids on their best days and kids on their worst days, and you don't get to choose or predict when, right? So it's kind of like a blitz, every play, and sometimes you pick it up and sometimes you don't.
What do you miss most about being a Brown football player?
Oh man, we were talking about this last weekend. It's probably I think an athlete will understand this. It's the bus ride home after a win, right? That's a unique space and time. You may have 15 ice bags on you. but you're going to tell your stories. You're going to lick your wounds. And those are some of the best memories we have. And it's fitting that this weekend's Columbia, because that Columbia game for our generation was the last game of the year. And if you won in the Bronx, right, and you got that take that bus ride back home, it was a good bus ride, right? Some of the coaches probably don't appreciate that story, but it's a good bus ride.
I think it's great. And you were 1 year too early to celebrate that bus ride home with an Ivy League championship. But I'm going to give you credit for laying the groundwork and the foundation for that 05 championship team.
Those guys earned it. They don't worry. They remind us of their rings every time we see them. But we remind them of some of the trials and tribulations in some of those earlier seasons, the 2003 season, 2002 season, right? That 2-8 season that I think kind of, like you said, built that foundation.
Well, Will, thank you so much for your service to our country, first and foremost. And it's going to be great to see you back here at Brown Stadium on Saturday. So looking forward to it. And thank you for joining us on Beer Chats.
Thanks, Al.